G'day, Michael here. This video is basically an ongoing thing with the Tevo Black Widow printer. As you can see, it's quite a large machine compared to the Prusa. It's really double the machine size, and so as a result, I reckon it's about 6 or 8 times the actual build volume, length with height type arrangement. Generally, I'm thrilled with how this machine is put together. And as a kit, it's quite nice to assemble. There are a lot of parts. It's taken me a lot longer than I thought it would take. But there are quite a few attributes I like about it, but there's a few that I'm not happy with. And the bits that I'm happy with is obviously the solidness of the frame. The parts are quite elegantly made. They're quite beautifully made. I was actually quite impressed when I was opening up the box. But how can I say? There's some shortcomings too. The first shortcoming that I see is this tip. It's a very small block, and it's going to have, best I can tell, about the same throughput as the Prusa has, which on the PETG with this 0.4mm tip size, I'm getting about 2 cubic millimeters a second out of that tip. Now, I'll just show you, the Delta has, I've done a video on this subject, but the Delta has this kind of tip, which, I don't know if that shows up very well, so I can hold it, which has got quite a longish thread compared to what the Prusa has. I don't know how that'll show up. You can see it's got about twice the thread length in the heater block. So the Delta's printhead basically seems to be able to, across the board, handle about twice the volume. And the robotics being sort of twice or 3 times as fast as what the Prusa is, means that you can actually use the feed rate, even on a fine tip with the Delta, simply because the robotics can move so fast. I was so annoyed by the flow rate on the Prusa, particularly with a larger tip diameter, that it's just crawling along. I was nearly going to make my own design of a tip. And inadvertently, I managed to discover, it was almost by accident, as you just scroll through eBay listings, etc. This guy, this is called a Volcano tip. Now I don't know whether the Element's any higher power output than the others, but if you have a look at the tip length, it's very long. It's a very long tip. Compare that with the Delta, it's about twice the Delta. So I'm estimating it's going to probably be able to handle about 3 times the melt volume that the Prusa can handle. You see the thread difference? Right, and how they've achieved that is they've oriented the block, rather than on flat, they've oriented the block vertically, so the thread goes in vertically. And the Element, I think this shows up, it looks like a lot of glare here. Where are we? You can see the Element goes in lengthways. The tip goes in lengthways, so it's actually got a long path of heating. Whereas the other head design, let's just have a look at that. You can see the length of the path that the heating takes place in is about 3 times the length. Also, I will be putting a larger diameter tip in this sink just so I'm getting a higher volume of material out. For me, it's a matter of relative precision. If the part's twice as big, then it can be sort of twice as coarse, if that makes sense. So the fact that I'd be using a coarse tip on the large printer is just logical. It's not, how can I say, it's not a drawback. I guess they've provided a small tip because people are always after resolution and so forth. But seriously, if you're doing a very large print that's fairly solid like I've got to do, you'd be printing for like maybe in excess of a week if you're trying to do a sizable part with a 0.4 tip with that kind of flow rate. So I'm after every cubic millimeter per second I can squeeze out of the tip. And being an extrusion machine, everything that the machine can produce has to go through that tiny little tip. So, it's the ultimate speed limit for a large print format. So it's kind of like, well, just relative precision. It makes sense to have a larger print tip on a larger print volume. If I've got about 6 times the potential volume, I'd want to have at least 3 times the speed of a tip. Anyhow, that's a criticism that's, if you're after resolution, doesn't matter so much, but really, for me, it's a big criticism of this size machine. That's just me. Another criticism I have is the way it's been designed to mount this head, let's just see if I can put that, is actually a bit eccentric. Now, according to the manual, it's like towards one side. Now, as a result, that means that the print head ends up being off the table here and on the table there, meanwhile wasting a bit of the path that it can print, how can I say, whatever's overhanging the edge is obviously not going to be produced. I've got quite a viewing angle here, the printer's too big. Okay, so obviously if it's off centre, the tip's going to be off the table here and inside the table there, so I'm losing all of that volume, whatever would be here is missing. All right, so how would I overcome that? I managed to work out that if I have the tip on centre here on this mounting plate, it basically finishes about 10 millimetres in from either end, which is 370 millimetres that is basically specified as the size of the machine. Now there's my criticism over and done with, I think. Oh, one more. If I do mount this concentrically, it hits the end. So I've had to, it's actually in the Prusa right now, had to make a spacer to bring the printhead out so I can mount it in the centre. And in their defence, they've made quite a nice, excuse me for a second, they've made quite a nice open architecture mounting plate. So if you've got different ideas of things you want to do, I'll zoom in, excuse fingers. If you've got different things you want to do, any tweaks you want to make, this drill pattern allows for a lot of different options. It's a real sort of a Meccano set design. So you can lay this thing out to suit yourself largely, and the way these rails are, the way the bearings are, you can afford quite a cantilever load. I'll zoom back out again. Okay, so you can handle quite a load on there. There's little or no deflection with, you know, sort of the normal printhead weights. Unlike the Prusa and the Delta, I couldn't afford this sort of weight on the Prusa, and I couldn't afford, well, it's just out of the question with the Delta because it's just not that kind of design. Okay, so when I get that mounted, I'll have this printhead forward so it'll be able to go past this upright, and that should solve all my problems of the volume. The other thing is mounting up high here. I'll be lifting the printhead up in such a way that it's probably only going to protrude below this plate by maybe sort of 10 or 15 millimetres, which means I'll also get more height. So you can see that the plate design here is actually quite helpful for resolving those sorts of issues. I would have thought they already would have had that as part of the design of this printhead. Now I do like this also in the fact that it's all metal. That's really nicely done. Well, I tell you what, there's a plastic part there. That's just a little clip thing to mount the back end, the cooled end of the hot end to the feeder. The feed is quite beautifully made. Maybe I'll open that up for you. That hinges open. Not so sure I can show it to you properly, but the feeder, like the spur wheel's inside here. You can see that there's springs in here, and obviously these screws on the outside provide tension for that, so you can tension up and down the feed rollers. So that should actually, I'm expecting this assembly to work really quite well. And it's definitely superior to everything else I've got. So yeah, we'll see how that runs in real life. But that looks beautifully made. It's actually quite heavy. My guess it's about 300 grams. It feels like that. And this frame has no trouble carrying that, so I'll have no concern about that. I do have a little bit of concern with inertia, like acceleration and deceleration. Every part's fairly heavy. And that kind of weight to accelerate and decelerate might cost it a lot of performance. But I guess again I'll see it in the running. All right. What else is there to cover on this thing? I do, like I said, I do like how they've actually designed it to assemble Got drag chains all sorted. The wiring's nicely pre-done. Basically set up in wiring looms like you'd have in a car assembly. The drag chain's already pre-fed. Yeah, so it's quite a nice setup there. Yeah. Well, I guess that's it. Feel free to like, share, subscribe, ask a question, not see my face. If you've got a suggestion for something you'd like me to talk about, show in a video, please do so. Well, that's it for me. Bye for now.